I can see the live button on mine.
Somebody say something.
How's it going, Jordan?
I'm good. How are you?
We don't need to do our introductions yet because there's only like 2 people on.
Yeah, we have to. We'll wait a minute. A few minutes. Let everyone join, like normal.
Right. So, I just put up an image from my layout I took today. Hang on a second.
Oh, yeah?
I saw it.
I'll share.
I saw it. The waving wheat field or something.
It's just a dead stuff field because it's December. How do I'm going to share screen.
Need to sprinkle a little bit of
there it is right there.
Green flock on there to make it the summer.
So I took that shot. I took the day off today, and I did the last like 6 inches of forest. I did the fence, and I did this field, and I was planning on adding on more texture. I don't know if it's necessary. I think it looks pretty much like a dead field to me.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. So and then I put the hawker van on there, and of course everyone says, "When are you doing the Point St. Charles?" It's like that's not a hawker.
When are we doing a hawker?
We should do a hawker at some point. I think Dan Darnell wants us to make a hawker.
Yeah.
My Van Hobbies models are nice, but they're like there's no glazing. It's no underbody detail. It's kind of basic.
Yeah. It's called modeling, Jason.
I just built a field. I just built the field in the forest. Come on.
He is modeling. He's got the ultimate. He's got the ultimate way of building kits. He has guys design them and make sure prototypically accurate. And then he's doing the whole thing. He goes right down to the blueprints and starts from scratch.
And that's how I do my stations. This is an early print of Guildwood Station coming along there. Yeah, so this is used on the laser engraver, and it was just a test to see if it worked, and it didn't. So I'm going to throw this out once I do the new one. But yeah, I made my corrections. But isn't that cool? It's like I do a framework of 1/16 MDF, and then I do a 20 thou skin on it to get the different textures and finishes.
Nice.
So, yeah, but even this, it's still got like you got the concrete block wall in there, right? And I've got the floor tiles actually engraved on the floor. So it's fun.
And you say it didn't work. What do you mean it didn't, or it's just not?
Yeah. So
what's not right?
My roof trusses were not supported properly. So if you look closely, they're a little wonky. They're just not all in line. Like over here, they're not in line with each other. So I redesigned. So the ones that were falling down, I'm installing from the top.
Oh.
So that it doesn't. I figure, why should it all be one way, right? The ones that need support install a different way.
He did a version of Brockville Station, about a year or two ago, and there was like one window that was an eighth of an inch too far to the left, so he threw it in the garbage. So,
yeah, I threw it out.
Okay. Anyways, I think people are joining in now, so we should probably get started.
Okie dokie. You can introduce us.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. This is our first Rapido Live in what?
4 months?
2 months? 3 months?
No, probably 4 months.
Has it been 4 months?
We lost Jordan. Jordan,
Sorry,
you didn't here for a while.
I just froze.
Great.
Someone call Rogers. Anyways, what did I miss?
Yeah, it's been like 4 months or 5 months since our last live. Yeah, it's a long time.
So we're back. We got Jason. We've got Tony Cook from White River Productions. Sorry,
it's right there.
And of course, we got Lionel Strang from Modeler's Life podcast. So we're all here. This is good.
I'd like to thank you two for joining our podcast. Like this isn't
a podcast,
a live stream. So
I don't know if you guys know this or not. This is crazy coincidence, but Rapido Trains is actually the exclusive sponsor of Modeler's Life podcast. I'm not sure if you guys were aware of that.
So I knew that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to also point out that this is anyone know what this t-shirt's from? Anyone? If you want to say?
1985 Universal Pictures, The Breakfast Club.
Thank you. And I have the matching mug. Check it out.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. Wow. If anyone remembers our last live stream where Jason talked about the facts of life for like 45 minutes, we're going to try and keep a lid on that this time. And
we're talking about trains.
You know,
Stay
we
on
talked
top.
we talked about Star Trek 2 as well.
We
Not
did.
not Star Trek 2 as in Wrath of Khan,
No, but
just
just Star Trek.
Star Trek as well.
And seeing as we are having this live stream in the midst of Picard season 3, that's
Which is actually quite good now.
good stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, thanks guys for joining us. We'll try and keep it on topic.
Exactly.
I'm thinking of going over the Star Wars display over there at Disney World. Does that count?
That's good. So right now, our family room upstairs, my son and I have set up most of our. We're in the minute. We've already spent 3 hours setting up all the Star Wars sets and action figures. I have all the sets dating back 40 years, and not all of them, but a lot of them. And it's like it's a multi-day event setting them up because it just takes so long. All the stormtroopers, and it's great. That's the way to do it. You should come back, Lionel, from Disney World with some Star Wars action figures and have a new collection.
Okay, all right. I'll mark that down.
All right. Okay.
I'm always looking for something to buy. It's actually pretty cool. Pretty cool.
It looks amazing. It looks amazing.
It is actually much more cooler than I would have expected.
Yeah.
They've done a good job.
Excellent.
It's not as nearly as good as the 44 tonners that are going to come out, but it's close.
There you go. I like what this man's saying. Why don't we start with that?
Start with the 44.
That's all.
44 tonners.
All right.
Here's I got a confession to make. Can I make a confession first?
Sure.
So Rapido Trains is the exclusive and only sponsor of Modeler's Life podcast. It's my very first sponsor, so I'm sort of good at it. And every time we talk about Rapido Trains, I come back to the 44 tonners. So I feel guilty that I'm not highlighting some of the other products because I keep coming back to these 44 tonners, and all I can think is you're going to sell like a bazillion of these things.
Yeah.
Have you ever sold a bazillion of anything?
Yeah, we sold a bazillion RDCs, and we sold a bazillion E8s and a bazillion PAs. Those are our 3 biggest selling powered models that we've done. Those 3 projects.
But the 44 tonner is already that's already proved to be a pretty strong contender. So.
Oh yeah. We're because I'm not sharing a screen now. I can go and check what our order numbers are like.
Yeah. Well, you do that.
Make sure I don't share screen.
Exactly.
No matter how many you make, it's not going to be enough.
From your lips to God's ears.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be so popular. And I love the fact that you got some of them in just some of them are painted without lettering. That's cool. And you get a few undecorated, but man, you got the whole gambit. You just like, what an offering.
All right, the 44 tonners are now selling. They've already sold. We just announced them less than 2 months ago, and I'd say we're about 1/3 of the way towards our Jeep 38 sales, and that's only after a month and a half.
Wow, nice.
That's pretty good.
And this is only the first run. I mean, we can. There's so many. Like, we did a lot of class 1s in the first run, but there's so many short lines. And we've had a lot of requests for Arcade and Attica and a whole bunch of other ones. So a lot we can do.
We're going to do, and we're doing some. We've got an exclusive with Train World for the Long Island Railroad, and from what I understand, we're already in conversations with some. Because it's building the conversations. I understand we're already in conversations with other stores, distributors, retailers, whatever, to do some more exclusives for this run.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, that's always a way to, if you have a more obscure prototype that you know you have a local following for, commissioning a custom run is a great way to do that. You can do it locomotives, freight cars, passenger cars, anything.
Yep. And keep in mind, we do have pre-production sample photos on the website. These samples were a bit of a mishmash of different. They put different details on different things, and there are still tooling updates that need to be implemented.
These are what we call T1 samples. They're first test shots, and it's really just to prove that it all fits, what goes together. When the orders were so strong, Bill came to me and said, "All right, now the orders are coming in really well. Can I add these extra prototype specific details?" And so we could, because we're confident that we sold enough. So there's additional intake grills we're tooling. There's additional truck side frames we're tooling that you don't even see on here. So it's going really well.
Yep, absolutely.
The sample at Springfield was pulling what, about 10 freight cars, something like that.
I think it was something like that on its own, and it ran the whole weekend, and it was pretty flawless. So,
yeah. Oh, very nice, very nice.
Speaking of these, in terms of at least the CN 44 tonners, we announced the 2 numbers, and we're desperately trying to find photos of number 1. CN number 1.
Black, green, and yellow. We're still going to do it in green, but we just don't know if it actually made it into green. But it's it's the better selling of the 2, so we are going to bring it out in green.
Yeah, we have lots of photos of number 2, but number 1 has been a little bit more elusive.
It's fine. I think that when it comes down to it, people they don't care. To be honest, it's that was a paint scheme that they all held. The vast majority of them ran in the 1954 scheme. So, people are excited to order it anyway.
Yep.
So who came up with the idea of the 44 tonners? Can we say that on the air? Or?
That was Bill Schneider.
Yep. He's been really pushing for that project for a while now.
It's his project start to finish. So, we have
millions of these things. You're going to sell so many of these. Oh my God. They're going to run so well. And
when it comes to what products we do, it's often a project manager has a particular model that he wants to make. And that's where the 44 tonner came from. And that's the way it is with most of our models. It's just, it's a model that one of our project managers really wants. And so they end up designing it. Other times, the model comes out of, like our BART models. We were contacted by BART to do those. And who would have ever thought they would sell as many as they've sold? It's really,
we were really shocked. We were shocked at how many BART trains we sold. And that's actually been, that's been a good thing for interest in transit in general. That really opens the door to more kind of region-specific transit projects.
It's definitely given me faith in doing more transit stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
I always find that fascinating, because when I was at Springfield, I interviewed Bill, and I interviewed Matt Gentry and Bobby Allard, but a couple of the design guys, and I always say the same question. So how do you come up with the ideas for a freight car or locomotive? And they always say, well, it's something I really wanted to model. And in my brain, I'm thinking, really? Like, this is just stuff you want, and you're going ahead and building it?
So I'm taking over the screen share, Jordan, because if anybody has blueprints of these, I'd really,
those are cool.
Having the BART models do so well, of course, it immediately leads to vintage Toronto subways. But if anyone's got blueprints, please get in touch. No, I don't want to subscribe. Go away. Anyway, so the transit thing, that's great. I mean, we did with the Comet cars, which is commuters, sold really well for us. The Bombardier bi-levels sold really well for us. So there is.
Speaking of which, we need to do more Bombardier bi-levels probably soon.
We will be announcing them before too long. It's just a question of workload.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're all working flat out at Rapido.
Exactly.
Except for me today. I took the day off to work on my lab.
You told me the other day not to tell anybody that.
Yeah, well, once I'd already done it, so you can tell everybody. All right, so we got the 44 tonners. I want to look at the latest container cars that we've just launched.
Sure. Let me just bring up some. You want me to bring up the website, or you want me to bring up photos?
Website's fine. That's good.
All right.
We're redesigning our website, so it's not going to suck quite as heavily as it does now.
Yeah, we brought out the new website, and was it a year ago? And
it broke from day one.
It broke from day one, and it's still so. If anyone's ever on our website, one of the problems we have is sometimes things just disappear, and we just randomly find out that. And it's not anyone doing anything. It's just the programming decides that it wants to make things disappear. So it's frustrating. So the whole website's getting there should be a new face on the website.
We're doing a facelift in the next few weeks. It's already almost finished.
Yep.
And then hopefully by this time next year, we'll have a whole back end that's redesigned, because it's a disaster. We discovered that a $20,000 order went missing from our back end. And the back end system is so crummy that it was merging orders incorrectly, and rather than merging them, it just zapped one of them. And thank God it was zapped. It was zapped after we made the numbers with the factory, so that the customer contacted us and said, "Where's the order? Here's our copy of it," and we had all the models in the back. I know for a fact that we're currently, we've got obviously IT team who discovered this last week. We got the IT team looking into it, and they're trying to find the missing orders. We have $45,000 of U25 orders that have gone poof in our system. So we're, again, this is happening after we've produced them. So once we fix the system, no one's orders are going to be missing. But it's very frustrating for us, as you can imagine. Also, for if a customer orders it, and then they say to come to us and say, everyone else is getting models, where's my model? And we say, we don't have an order for you. And then they say, here it is. And then of course we were able to find it after that. It's been a real nightmare scenario. And basically the vendor, I won't mention any names, but the vendor that we used for the system told us they could do what we needed, which is pre-orders, multiple currencies, and also if you order, say, an FPA4 and a baggage car, and the FPA4 arrives, we want to be able to ship you the FPA4 and hold the order for the baggage car. And so that's called splitting of orders. And they said the system could do none of those things. They were like reprogramming on the fly to do all the things that we wanted. So they obviously wanted the business. So they said, yeah, we can do it. And then it couldn't. All right. So it's been really painful over the last 14 months or so. But I have to hand it to the team at the office that, for the footwork and all the other things they've done to actually, keep goods shipping and cards being charged and all that stuff.
Websites, I hear that more and more with problems on websites from all different levels of the hobby, from hobby shops to people like you, that it's like, well, here's what we wanted. We thought this would be simple. Or again, as you say, they told us we could do all this, and no. And yet it costs a fortune, and it's hard to fix, and it is very frustrating.
It's because of the pre-orders, and then that's really it's the pre-orders and order splitting, is that all of us in this hobby have to do that. Now, if you're a one-man hobby shop and you've got the orders in a book, then no problem, right? You go through the book and it's all manual. But when you're dealing with thousands upon thousands of orders because you're a manufacturer or a huge distributor or something like that, that becomes really challenging.
You mentioned the U25s. Are they pretty close?
Yeah, they should be leaving the factory probably late next month.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
really looking forward to those.
We saw some very, very early shots from the factory. I don't know if we shared any in the newsletter.
We just shared some handrails because there's a great shot of all these noses, and then Matt, the project manager, emails the factory and says, the color looks totally wrong. So then they had to send another photo with the thing beside the color swatch. Oh, okay, it's fine now. But the lighting when I took the original photo and the blue, reflecting blue off the blue tray, it had made the Great Northern color look kind of bluish, and it just it wasn't big sky blue. Right. So that was so we couldn't show that photo online, but you can't explain that when you show it. Oh, here's a great photo, don't worry, the color's not wrong. That's not going to go down so well.
Yep. So hopefully we'll have some shots of those probably.
Lionel's trying to get in here. Give him some.
It's okay. I was just, everything you keep saying is so interesting. I constantly have questions. But so when a project manager starts a project, first he obviously probably gets some sort of, okay, go ahead and start working on that. At what point would he start to bring in more of the people that are available at Rapido to help him with, like color swatches and research and things like that? Or is it just from A to Z, he's in charge and what you get is what you get?
So the project manager does do most of the work. Now, obviously, we're here to help. I'll give you an example. The C30 was ready for tooling, and then the project manager that is Jeff, and then he had a project management review meeting where the other project managers in Jordan's not a project manager, but he just knows everything, so he gets in all the project management meetings. So they all looked at the model and they said the nose is looking a bit wrong. and they couldn't put their finger on it. They said the nose is just looking a bit wrong, and if they could see that the nose was looking a bit wrong, then it's wrong, right? But they couldn't figure out what it was. But it was just the project managers all looking at it together and saying something's wrong with the nose. So Jeff is going out this weekend to actually, he's bringing a bunch of Bristol board and some scrap 1x2s, and he is making a full-size trace of a real nose.
Yep.
and with all like the bevel at the cab and the bevel down, the whole thing. And then he's going to stand with a ruler on, he's going to photograph it flat. So it's like a cross section of a real engine. And he's going to trial and error. He's going to make a Bezier curve to go around the curved parts and everything. And that's how he's going to do it. And he's just going to go measure off the real thing. And then he's going to apply that photo to the side view of the model and say, oh, that's what we got wrong. Because no one could put their finger on what was wrong with it. It was just a little bit off, tiny bit off. But they could tell it was a tiny bit off. I mean,
but it was enough that we wanted to correct that before.
Yeah. So I mean, we had told the factory to start tooling, and then we said stop tooling, and they hadn't yet started cutting any steel. And we said we need to fix this.
I thought you did 3D scans a lot now on.
We do a 3D scan? I don't think we did. We did measuring the C30.
Oh.
We didn't do a 3D scan of the C30. We do 3D scans of a lot of our projects, but we thought the C30 having already done the B36, that a scan wouldn't be necessary, and yeah, we probably should have done the scan. It just, when you do the scan, it goes much quicker. The PA design went very quickly. The E8 design went very quickly because we had the 3D scan.
Part of the problem with the C30 is there's very, very few left in the US. I think there's one in all of Canada.
Yeah,
left.
Josh went to the one in Alberta. It was was winter, and he was measuring it in a shed in Alberta.
I think it was like January or something like that.
It was really, really cold to get at that thing. And when we did the 3D scan of the 8/16/44, we discovered that all our dimensions were off.
Yeah, so actually we haven't mentioned that in a little while. The Dan Darnell is basically redesigning the H1644, the Fairbanks Morse road switcher from the ground up. I know he's got the CP version pretty much down pat. I think there's still
CP version is done, and he's not doing the other versions off that.
Yeah. So it's been a long while, but it is coming. It is in the works.
It's probably going into tooling in the next 2 to 3 months, but it's a lot of work. It's, let's put it this way: all of the accepted dimensions that are in the books are a little bit off. Okay, they're a little bit off. And when we recently drew it, we used measurements we took on site. We used the book dimensions, but when we did the scan, we discovered that everything was a little bit off. Those FM units, it's not like an EMD. It's not as simple as, with repetitive measurements and stuff. It's very unique.
Yeah,
but it's looking great. Great.
It should be.
Orders that are very, very strong. So people are being. I just want to say I appreciate everyone's patience, but rest assured, the reason it's taken so long is we were basically ready for tooling, and then Dan said it's not looking right. We got to do a 3D scan. Yep. So it happens. This happens when projects get delayed a little bit because of that, or in the case of the H16, they get delayed a lot because he had to go back to the C30 is a nose. It's very small correction. But the H16 required a full redesign. Now the guts are the same, the drives is all designed, everything like that. That's fine, but it's the exterior appearance.
I know. Sorry, I was just gonna say Jeff was just also finishing up a couple more details. There were some small revisions to like the fuel tank area and truck stuff and sanding lines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much all.
On the C30, we're including the sanding lines, and if you don't want them, snip them off. I think that's what we decided.
Yeah, they removed some of them later on. Tony, you might know more about this than I do, but I think they tended to remove some of the inside sanding lines towards the fuel tank. I think that was in the 80s or 90s.
Come down. I'm not sure on that now. No, I remember digging a lot of pictures.
It's one of those things where it's impossible for us to do from the factory because each number had different sanding pipe arrangements depending on when you're looking at it. Exactly. So the project manager does do most of the legwork, and then they have to reach out to as many people as they can obviously you can't just post on an online discussion group or Facebook, hey, we're making X. Anyone have any information? You don't want to show your cards too early. Unless it's a product like the BART train, when you say, hey, we're making the BART train. Does anybody want it? Right. So we've got some N scale announcements coming up in the near term that we're going to be like, okay, conditional announcement, 5% early purchase discount if you get ordered by a certain date, because we don't know if we're going to sell enough to actually make these.
And that actually, we did that with the N-scale Turboliner. I got the HO one behind me here, the set, but the N-scale Turboliner, we had the early bird, and the orders were actually excellent. They were quite good. So that is, I think that's in tooling right now, isn't it?
Yes, the end. We'll have a sample of that in a month or two.
Yep.
The HO Turboliners are leaving the factory in 3 days.
Wow, I love that box. That box looks awesome.
Oh yeah, this is this was an original poster that Amtrak used, I think, in advertising, and the box, the set actually comes with the poster.
Nice.
So we should have. Sorry, make sure that doesn't not fall over. We should be doing a video on that in maybe a month or so.
Do you remember, Jordan, when you used to slide turboliners into every video in the hopes that we would make a turboliner?
Yeah, I think that was my first week. I printed off a package. That was over 7 years ago now. It was like January 2016. I printed off like a package of material and I put it on the desk. And that was back when there was like 5 of us in the office. And you said, no. No way.
That one, we did the conditional announcement with that guy. We did. Like that was one of the first models we did a conditional announcement for. That really works. If it's an oddball, we're not sure it's going to do very well, we'll do a conditional announcement.
Yeah.
Because we have Rapido's known for oddballs, but some oddballs are just so odd nobody wants it. Right? Like there's nothing you can do.
Is that why you keep telling me no to that Ingalls 4S project when I keep asking?
Or the RSC 24 that all 12 guys who want to keep asking for.
No, you probably have one on your layout.
Jordan, did you say a poster comes? Jordan, did you say a poster comes with the Turboliner?
Yeah, we have a poster that comes with the set.
Wow, how cool is that?
It's like the cover of the box. It's just a kind of a poster.
Right, yeah, it's a poster. That's pretty cool. That's a cool idea.
Very neat.
Yeah. Can I continue my question about designing, or my interrogation about designing stuff?
For sure.
So, okay, so some of the things go faster, some things don't. I would assume that most modelers, because a lot of manufacturers talk about tooling costs, but at the end of the day, I guess you have to figure in how many man hours were put into the actual creating of the drawings until they go to tooling. I would imagine that's something you've got to figure into.
If we were better organized, yeah, we'd probably take that into account. I remember when I remember saying to one project manager, "It's a boxcar. It's time to move on. You're within an inch or two on every dimension. It's time to move on." Right? Yes, there'll be people who are not happy with it. They're going to complain, "This is wrong and that is wrong. This is wrong." But I can't afford to have you spending 5 months on a boxcar. Okay, it's a boxcar. We're only going to sell a few thousand of them. It's not a huge money maker. We just have to at some point say it's good, right? And whereas with a locomotive, that's where we can, we can tweak and work with it and whatever else for a bit longer. But no, the biggest challenge is really just the capital investment that we have to pay all our tooling costs and pay all our production costs before we deliver the model. So when you're doing something like an E8 and our tooling and production costs are well north of $1 million, we got to pay that $1 million before we get the models in, and we don't get paid until after we ship them, right? Like most of our terms for our wholesale customers is 30 days. So we'll ship it out and get paid 30 days later. So think about that. If you've got a project in development for 2 years, and often they are, you could be paying that tooling cost a year and a half or longer before you get paid. So you got the tooling cost you're paying up front, and then you got the production cost you're paying up front. And so that's a challenge. That's the biggest challenge. I've said this before on your podcast, Lionel, to make a small fortune in model trains, you got to start with a big one. But the biggest challenge is we have to spend so much cash. that model train manufacturers are never rich in cash. We never have lots of cash lying around because we're paying, like we've got stuff in tooling now that we don't expect to ship until 2024. Right. And it's in tooling. In fact, if you look at, we've actually got all of 2023 and 2024 pretty much mapped out. We're now pushing stuff into 2025. So that stuff we're going to be paying tooling for in the next few months, some of those are going to be 2025 models. So that's 2 years that, or 20 months that we're paying those tooling costs before we get the money in. So
I think we already have a couple of new locomotives, I think, that we're looking at for 25.
Yeah. So the problem there is that we go to the, I got to go to the bank and say, we need more money. It's always need more money. We need to have a really big line of credit because it goes up and it goes down. It goes up and it goes down, right? Because you're paying all this money. So the E8's a good example. We're paying all this money for the E8, and then we ship the E8s, and then like the money fills up again, and then it goes down again, and then it fills up again. It goes down again. Like it's not constant. It's up and down all the time. We almost got our line of credit paid off completely at one point, and then we tooled a bunch of new stuff, and gone.
So all right. So you guys have gone from one guy, then two guys, and three guys, to now you have like 30, 40 people. What has been the experience of handling it from a business standpoint? Because you're a model railroader first, and it turns out you're an excellent businessman. So as the years have gone by, obviously you can't answer all the questions, but as the years have gone by, it's a good question for both Jordan and you, like what has caught you off guard, or what have you kind of gone where, well, I did not see that coming, as far as dealing with, like you say, that money goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways, it goes across, like what is it you guys have discovered in the last 5 years that is kind of like, wow?
I'm certainly not as afraid of debt as I was towards the beginning of Rapido.
Okay.
You ever said to me, you're going to be spending $1 million on a project? That's way too much money.
Right.
Those numbers I couldn't conceive of.
Yeah.
And, Rapido's annual sales weren't even $1 million back then, right? I mean, so it's like we couldn't conceive of that, spending $1 million on a project. So the size of the projects is surprising. And I think that the biggest challenge is that we're no longer a small team. We're now a big team, and it changes the way you manage the team. So we're finding, I'll give you a perfect example. Janet's our CFO, but she's also our bookkeeper. A company this size should have a CFO and a bookkeeper, right? But so it's adapting to the side. When we grow like this, it's like, wow, Janet's working off her feet because she's doing all the planning financially for the company, and she's paying the taxes and doing all this. Like she's got
right.
two different hats on. And so, Mohan is our COO, but he's also doing the sound design because that's what he's good at. Right. So he's juggling all these things. We actually hired Paul, we'll make it official in a month. So we're not supposed to, can we say his last name? Okay, yeah. We've hired Paul.
I already did. So
I just said Paul. Yeah, so Paul Knowles has been on with us since January, and his job now is to be Mohan's right-hand man so that he can coordinate. So the turbo line is a perfect example. It was ready to ship like 2 weeks ago. And the factory says, hey guys, where are the instructions? What? And so I'm emailing Josh, and it's like, where are the instructions? And Josh's like, right. They're sitting on my computer, 98% finished, right? And like that was a perfect example of where we need, because we got so many projects we're juggling, right? That kind of thankfully benign mistake. It just delayed the shipment by a week or two. But that happens a lot now because there's so many, we'll get an email from the factory saying, we're still waiting on that color chip. And I've got all these unpainted shells waiting for that. Right. Thought we sent that already. And so we're all scrambling because of so many projects. So what Paul's job is to do is he's going to be coordinating all that. So he's going to come to the project manager and say, our order deadline is in 2 weeks. Are the final artworks ready yet? And the manager says, no, okay, you have 1 week to get those ready because we need a week to review so that we can tell that, as soon as the order deadline comes, we can then send the numbers to the factory and we have artworks. If we don't have artworks ready, then the factory can't start production. That causes more delay, right? So those are the kind of things that we need to handle. And then we've got a project manager who's working on this design, has to get into tooling, and he's finishing that. And then there's like, ding dong, we need information for the artworks on that, but I'm working on this. I haven't thought about that project in 4 months. Right, so that's the kind of struggles that we have, I think, as a larger company. There's so many more projects to juggle, and each one has, honestly, about 60 steps for each project. And so one project will be on step 10, another one's on step 45, right? And if the project manager is busy on step 10 of project A, he hasn't looked at project B in a while, and then he's got to get that done for project B. So that's been a real challenge for us because there's just so many more projects now.
Just going back
Jordan,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Jordan, like, do you feel like it feels like there's an excitement at Rapido every time I go there, or every time I talk to Jordan or to Jason, and same with you. I mean, it feels like, do you feel like, gosh, the thing it's like a boulder rolling downhill, but it's kind of fun riding it because you really every year brings new and more exciting challenges?
Absolutely. And there's always new stuff coming, and every day is a little different, or a lot different in a lot of cases. So, I mean, remember in the old days, when I first started, I was going off to fix Edmonton twice a week because
our sleeping car, because you had nothing to do.
Yeah. So it's
I mean, I think like looking at the box over your shoulder, Jordan, I mean, that says it all, right? I mean,
yeah,
we're making your favorite train that you've always wanted. And it's not an idea, it's not a drawing, it's a model, and it's a model that you've put on the track and you've run with sound, with lights, everything.
That reminds me, we gotta show that off soon. It's pretty neat. It's got the strobes and everything. Everything works just beautifully. So
it's a nice model. It's a gorgeous model.
Absolutely.
But no, it is fun, Lionel. Oh, by the way, we're going out for lunch tomorrow, the Rapido team, Lionel. You want to join us?
Sure. I'll catch a flight. I'm in the southern studio right now.
I thought you assumed you were in the Great White North.
No, I'm in the southern studio right now.
I wonder you said Z earlier. I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. The heat is oppressive.
It's real oppressive here. It's almost hit freezing.
Yeah.
But up to freezing.
But anyways,
Jordan wants to focus on models.
No, well, I was just going to mention before we were talking about the H16 earlier, and the fun that project has been getting it to where it is. But we have, because I know a lot of people are wondering, RS18Us, RSC14s, RS11s. I think they're all in production now.
All in production.
Yeah.
Finally.
So it's been a long wait, but they
gave those numbers to the factory like 7 months ago, longer, and I think we're finally seeing shells now being injected.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's taking them so long. I think it's just busy.
Yeah.
They've been making the M420s. They've been making the D10s.
Well, the CN versions of the M420, those are in production, and we actually saw the first photos of the toolings for the BC Rail and the P&W M420s. So we should have samples of those probably mid to late spring, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, those molds are almost done, so they've been working on them since the fall. So I imagine we'll get samples. I mean, Chinese New Year stopped it for 6 weeks or whatever, but yeah, I imagine we'll see samples of those soon because those molds look pretty finished in the photos.
Oh yeah.
You guys have you have those Fruhoff trailers now. You have some Chevy sedans. You got the bus. I love how you got this kind of wonderland of stuff you can order from. And was that kind of a planned thing? Do you have more plans to kind of? I love me personally, I love the Fruhoff trailers. Am I saying that right? Is it Fruhoff?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it trailer? Am I saying that right?
But
I mean, Do you have plans to kind of like more cars, more trailers, more trucks or anything like that? Or is it like, it seems to be like, that's half the fun. That's when I go to go to speak about Rapido on the podcast, I always do the same thing. I'll say, oh, let's look on the website and see what they have. And it's like, there's so much stuff to choose from.
Right.
Well,
is that a design plan of the future kind of thing? It's like, it's just, hey, let's build one of these.
Well, we've been, I think we mentioned this in the newsletter very briefly. We've been trying to get a license with Ford for like 2 years. And every time we email them, we get a different person who tells us
the exact same thing.
The exact same. It's a carbon copy. It's like a clone of the email that we've been getting for 2 years, that they're not taking more licensees at the moment. So
no, they said they're not. So, and they make us fill out the whole application first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they say no. And I think that basically they think they only want to talk to you if you're like a $50 million business or something like that, right? So they don't seem interested. And I actually wrote back to the lady and said, okay, there's a whole bunch of model train manufacturers making unlicensed Ford models. Are you telling me you just don't care? No response. So I suspect the answer is yes, they don't care. But I'd rather get a license. We put a notice in our last newsletter with a big exclamation mark saying, we should have put a picture. We should have put a Ford logo if we should have put, and that would have caught the attention of the Ford people.
Maybe.
But we said, like, if you work for Ford or you know how to get us a license, give us. No one's contacted us.
Well, we've had a couple of emails I have to look through still, but
anything about Ford? Seriously?
Just suggestions of people for who to contact.
Okay, because if it's suggestions like, well, I've Googled this person's name, that's not going to help. It's got to be like my next door neighbor is the VP of marketing. He's the right person to call. I'll put in a good word for you. That's what I want.
I've been driving Lincolns for about the last 10 or 12 years. You want me the next time I'm in the dealership?
Oh, yeah,
and they say,
good.
What will it take to get you behind the wheel? Which, is not a big thing for me to say, well, whatever. But yeah, I might say, can we get a deal with Rapido to license? Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, but Tony, the guys you're dealing with at your Lincoln dealership are wearing blue jeans. So really, do you think they have any pull at all?
They always say that the people with money you'd never know by the way they look or, the way they behave. So could be. I don't know.
I think that your Ford dealer is actually a secret gazillionaire.
There you go.
Yeah, probably. So let me ask you this question. So now that I bet you when you were 2 and 3 people strong, hey, let's make some Ford pickup trucks, if the thought had ever crossed your mind. And it was probably less scary at the time. But now, because Rapido is basically one of the largest manufacturers in the hobby, you have to be a lot more careful what you're doing.
We can't. I don't think we can just. We could do a Ford design, not call it a Ford. But I wouldn't do what the European guys are doing and say this is our Ford Escort without any licensing. I wouldn't do that. And so licensing is an issue with something like that. In other cases, licensing is not an issue, but in some cases it is. We have to be cognizant of that. A lot of railroads, their attitude is if you ask us, we have to say no, so don't ask for licensing. Whereas transit agencies tend to want licensing. So we'll work with it. Whenever we're doing a transit agency, we send them a letter and say, we're making a model of this. If you have a licensing program, we'd like to sign up for it. If you don't, we can do something. And if you ignore this letter, then we're just going to assume you want it. It's okay for us to make it.
And we've actually had transit agencies that have sent us a letter that just said, go away, basically. Yeah.
A couple.
Wow.
Yeah. Not many, but 1 or 2.
Yeah. But truthfully, the vehicles don't make a lot of money. They're more of a labor of love. But we couldn't run Rapido on vehicles. Our bread and butter is locomotives, freight cars, passenger cars. That's really where most of the focus will be. You could sell a container load of accessories and it'll cover our overheads for 4 weeks, 3 weeks, right? You sell a container load of locomotives and it covers our overheads for 4 months. So like that, that's what keeps the lights on is locomotives, freight cars, and passenger cars. And thank God we didn't do a lot of freight cars before. And I remember I told you this before, Lionel, it was early 2020 that I like saw the light and said, let's make as many freight cars as possible. And thank God we did, because the freight cars often keep the lights on, right? If you bring out 2 or 3 freight cars, that's, even though each one is not enough to be a home run, you got a couple, 3 singles there, right? Like, I'll take them.
That's also and that's something we've been doing more of with all the new freight cars. That gives you more opportunities for reruns, second runs, third runs down the road. So if the factory if they have some time and if they have production space, you can just say, let's do new road numbers for such a passenger car, or such a freight car, and it works nicely.
Yeah, I want to see how you still haven't shown pictures of the well car.
Well, that's the thing. Well, it's the set. I was just about to get into that. Let's go over to the website, because we just announced a new run of our Gunderson 53-foot well cars last week. And as I recall, are we updating the tooling for this? I think I saw something about we're modifying.
So the mold for the body was shot. It was poorly made by a tool and die maker we don't use anymore. And last time we made these cars, we ended up having to pay through the nose because the amount of flash that had to be cleaned off at the factory was crazy. So we're remaking the main bodies. So we're adding some more see-through. There was one walkway at the end that wasn't see-through on the first run or two. And so we're now making that see-through because we're remaking the die-cast body. So there'll be even more see-through. We wanted to put that in the advertising, but it sounded a bit weird and kind of not, kinky. Even more see-through, but it is even more see-through than before. Scroll down. Do we have any more pictures there?
We do. So these are all actually these are.
Yeah. Okay. So scroll down. Look at the middle photo there. So that right just by the coupler, you can see that walkway is not see-through on that model. So it's going to be see-through on the new run. Yeah. So we're always trying to make little improvements like that. We don't really publicize. We haven't publicized this, but if anyone gets the new E8s that we produced as an exclusive for Heartland Hobby wholesale distributor, you'll notice some tooling improvements on the sides that we're just being very quiet about, but we've improved it. And any chance we get, we will improve. Do you have any photos there of the Heartland E8s, Jordan?
Oh, somewhere. Do we want to do that after we talk about this first?
Oh, we want more to say about this? Okay.
Hold on. Well, there's lots. We've barely gone over it yet. Okay. Oh, hold on. Give me a sec. Talk amongst yourself while I dig them out of the.
I got something to say about the Gunderson well cars. Sure. I mean, once again, you guys are going to donate to my One More Year cause of $5 off each car, and I'm like, gosh, somebody. We were doing a podcast. We were doing a podcast the other night, and somebody said, "Hey, that's cool that Rapido's doing that again." And I went, "What?"
Yeah, we should have told.
And they read me.
We forgot. It's been busy.
But it's so cool. It's so cool that you guys are. It's so much fun to have this relationship now. It's a lot of fun for me, so I appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure. Yeah, the well cars we're offering them with containers or without containers, which was a bit confusing, but we'll see how they do. And we give people a couple months to order those. I think with the order deadlines in June for those cars. But we had
June 15th, I believe.
Yeah, in spring, when I was in Springfield, a couple of dealers said to me, I need more of your well cars. I can't, every time I find them at a distributor or whatever, they go right away. But he says, include containers. So people always want the containers with the well cars. So I came to the team and said, let's include containers. And then the team said, we got to do some with containers and some without, because not everybody wants containers. There's a lot of containers on the market out there. So you can either buy them with containers or without containers. There's a lot of different product numbers now. So I'm sure we're going to get screamed at by some of our dealers by all the product numbers, but we wanted to offer that variety, either with or without containers.
So now, Tony, can I ask Tony a question? Even though
Tony didn't say anything, we need Tony. We got to hear from Tony, please.
So Tony, how do you find out? Like, does Rapido contact you? Like, will Jordan say to you, "Hey, Tony, you might be interested in this. This is coming down the pipe," and like the C37-7 or something like that, or like, how do you find out what's Rapido doing? Like, probably a lot of people think that you have an inside line to the guys at Rapido.
I usually know about stuff way in advance when they ask on like that C30 project. I got slides out of Kevin U. Daly's collection for it, but then I never know, it's confidential when the stuff is asked for, but I never have any idea, like, is this going to be announced next month? Is this coming for like this summer's NMRA show? Sometimes there could be projects like that, maybe a year later, I'm asking like Matt Gentry or somebody in an email, hey, I found some new pictures of these. Are you still looking? Oh, yeah, that's kind of been backburnered because we're working on this or that. But so you never know. Sometimes you hear these things and get some things together, but then you don't know where it is in line.
Tony's talking about the massive new locomotive project that Matt's working on that will be announced later this year. Massive. It's gonna be huge. From Long Island, gonna be huge.
Well, and just so everybody out there realizes, you guys never give me any indication in advance of what might be coming down before it's released, which is a really good idea, and I would recommend that you stay with that policy.
Well, wait, Jason, wasn't it you that didn't you spill the beans about the N-scale -8 like 6 months before it was announced or something like that? Weren't you the guy that did that?
Probably. I tend to tease stuff that, like, it's no big deal that I've teased it, because, like, anyone got any drawings of this?
Oh.
We need drawings of this, please. That's not correct. That's terrible. We need drawings of this. Great. I can have a Spicer drive axle. That's helpful, right? But we need drawings of this thing. So yeah, please, anyone.
So TTC, Toronto Transit Commission subway cars. Whose pet project is that? Yeah.
I don't actually need them for my layout because they'd be hidden under Union Station. But come on. Yeah. Wouldn't that be cool?
Cool. Man, that would be cool. I would buy some of those just to have them.
I was 15, and my school was at Bloor and Spadina, so I had to get up to Finch Station. So rather than going across the St. George to Yonge and then Bloor Yonge north to Finch, I'd sometimes go around the loop. That means I got a seat. I would go south to Union and up to Finch. And I didn't even realize that these cars were being pulled off, but it was like a month before the Gloucester cars were retired in 1990. And I think they were retired summer 1990. This must have been May or June. And these cars, first of all, the ventilation system was you open the windows in the subway, okay, which is very common back in the day. But today, young people, what? You could open windows in the subway? Yes. And you could stand at the front window with it open and watch out the front with the sooty air, your face, and it was all like green inside with lights that would flash on and off. It had straps to hold on to, and the padded, very cushiony seats. And I remember I got on to go around the loop, so I was on the subway for a good 45 minutes, if not longer. And I sat, and it's an old train, and I sat down in the last car, and I just sucked in the atmosphere, the smells, the sounds. I felt the upholstery or the vinyl and the
asbestos from the brake shoes.
Whatever, doesn't matter. But anyway, I just really drank it in, and then when it was retired, I was okay with that. Like I felt that I'd had that experience. Same thing when the Via Rail's old blue and yellow cars were retired. I went to Churchill, Manitoba to ride the blue and yellow cars because it's like 2 days up and 2 days back on these blue. And so I felt that I had sort of said my goodbyes, you know what I mean? And I got that experience. So I think that it's very important, especially if you're like many modelers are, you're a rail fan. Go, and if you see a train's gonna be like I'm thinking the Canadian to Toronto, Vancouver in the old 1950s Bud cars. Go book your ticket ASAP. Who knows how long those cars are going to be running? I mean, it may be 5, 6, 7 years. It may be 1, right? So ride that train while you can, and just like suck the marrow out of it. You know what I'm trying to say? Like just like really enjoy it and appreciate it and be present. So that's really important, especially in this hobby, right? So many people were so busy. Like if you look on a train and you're sitting there and you're just looking at how cool it is to be on this train, you're looking out the window and everybody around you is working on a laptop or looking at their phone. Everybody.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't want to speak about age, but I was old enough that I got the subway only ran from Eglinton to Union. But in the early 60s, you know, my dad would or I would get on the bus. My buddy and I would get on the bus at the age of 9 or 10, and we'd spend all day riding the TTC. But specifically, we'd jump on the subway and did exactly what you said. You could open the windows, you could stand at the front. It was just an amazing experience, you know. And you're right, like that. It's like guys talk about, you know, I can remember nobody photographed a GP40 back in the 80s. Right. What do you want to photograph a Jeep 40 for? Now everybody's dying to see Jeep 40s, you know.
Well, look at the situation with all the second generation, third generation diesels are all being scrapped. No one's saving them, right? Because no one's got the money or the space, and we were so careful to save F units and Alcos, and now we've got second, third generation units to scrap. They're all getting scrapped.
Yeah.
What can you do? I wish people always reach out to me and say, "Hey, here you can buy an SD50F. Like, get it, save it." With what money? It's buying it's the cheap part. Moving it, storing it, restoring it. Like, it's a lot of money.
On the other end of things, not to get off topic, but that's the thing about a lot of older stuff. A lot of the Dash 2s, a lot of them are being rebuilt. A lot of Class 1s are rebuilding them for another 10 or 15 years of service, or maybe even more. So they're not going to museums in a lot of cases because they still need them.
Yeah, except for the SD50Fs, the HR616s. So we'd list all the engines, the Canadian icons that are gone, and nothing's been saved.
There's some still in service. There's some short lines out in the Midwest. I think the 60 or the 50 AFs. There's a couple. Technically they're SD60s, but they look the same.
Right.
My number boards. Anyway, off topic. Anyway, we were going to talk about the Heartland D units.
Yeah, let's have a look at those.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So these actually are shipping to Heartland this week, I believe.
I think they left. They leave
today? Did they already leave?
You're in the office. I was off today. I thought they left today.
Maybe they did. I don't know. I don't work in the warehouse anymore.
That's true.
The old days.
Who's doing it? Somebody, for God's sakes, I hope somebody's looking after this.
So can you show us some closer uppers?
Sure.
I love that New York Central green. Yep. Like that's the one out of that group, even over the Rock Island and the Wabash. That's just really cool.
I think it's cool that you can see that the Rock Island's got the vertical two headlights and the New York Central's got the horizontal.
Keep in mind these are all raw photos. They haven't been cleaned up or anything like that. So
let's find one we can zoom in on.
This is the Rock Island. Or sorry, this is the Wabash E8. Kind of fuzzy.
The photo, not the
Beautiful.
model.
Huh?
Photo's fuzzy, not the model.
No, yeah, it's the photo was
exactly.
have not been edited at all.
You guys must just be drooling sometimes when you see these models. You see first photos of fully painted, prepared models. You guys must be just drooling, going, holy mackerel, you know. They're just the thing that I can't get over with you guys is I keep thinking to like right now, for some reason or other, I'm in love with a UP 40-foot boxcar. I look at that picture and I'm thinking, man, it's just exquisite. It's almost like your models are getting to a point where they're like fine jewelry almost. Just
thank you.
Beautiful.
Jordan, can you get to the Milwaukee Road unit? Speaking of UP, it's in.
I think so. Hold on one sec. I gotta stop sharing and I'll dig it up here.
Yeah. So we actually tooled new sides for the Milwaukee Road one. You know, our original design was to have it like the Paul Lubliner's Highliner's F unit, where you had all these different panels. Mm-hmm. And so I remember when we started production, the factory started putting them together. It's like, that's not working. There we go. Zoom in on that. That's nice.
That's beautiful.
There we go. Gorgeous.
We
had to tool new sides for that one.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it was. It was some small detail. It might have been the sand filler hatches. I think that's what it was.
I was going to say those filler hatches are odd. And is there an extra like batten or whatever, a vertical thing behind the last porthole between the two E's in Milwaukee?
Is that an extra? I think that's on, isn't that on all of them? I don't know.
I don't know.
Not the EA project manager. You got to talk to Bill. He's probably watching this now going, ah. I wonder if there's a text message right now from him saying, "No, that's what we did." Anyway, oh, I have a nice email from a text message from a friend asking he's dying about the huge new loco announcement. Anyway, so I know someone's watching. But anyways, yeah, it's just really really cool the detail that we have on there. I was saying something when I cut myself off and I forgot what it was. So I don't know what it was.
Something about e-units?
No, I don't know what it was. Anyway, so yeah, those aren't exclusive. Those are exclusive for Heartland. And, there's a bit of a delay now. Sorry, they're exclusive for Heartland, and if you want them, you got to order them from your hobby shop. Heartland's a distributor; you can't order direct from them. So all of these are available from Heartland Hobby Wholesale. Your hobby shop has to order from them. All right, Lionel, you were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to ask Jordan, like when each one of these models comes in, do you just kind of like, well, I think maybe I need to keep one over here on my desk, because it's like, I understand I'm the same way. I have a particular prototype that I like more than others, but it's like each one of these models, like you just want to like have one and kind of set it on your desk and look at it.
I might have a few on the desk here. So just don't tell Jason. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
I had that with your, is it the, I can share the screen here, that World War One era boxcar. Is it up there?
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah. And this was one, I had these for Model Railroad News. This is in May's issue. And hey, you see, I often joke with the Rapido team, ask when do they sleep, is how I start the review. But this was a car that, and I say it in the review, my expectation, I didn't have like negative or nothing, but for a car like this, that we've kind of seen things like this before, it's like, yeah, you know, I guess as I was taking them out and doing the photography, it wasn't until I really started handling them and looking at them, seeing how well they were put together, how all the grab irons were perfect, you know, everything looks so good about these cars, that suddenly a car that I didn't feel like I was all that excited about, or yeah, you know, okay, you know, they're all just boxcar red, and yeah, there's differences in them. But by the time I was done, I think like one of the last things I say in the review is I have this new appreciation for this car that I was just kind of like, yeah, I need to review those 3 boxcars, and they are really stunning. And there's another Southern Pacific version that I think I've got samples on that now to come out, and I'm excited to see it.
Thank you. A lot of that other stuff comes from Bill. Bill's our big like pre-transition era freight guy. All right. Dan does the Canadian stuff, transition era and later. A lot of that comes from Dan. And then we've got Matt and Jeff doing the modern stuff. Josh does a bit of everything. Am I forgetting any of the major I think that's most of the guys, right? I left someone out.
I was going to say, speaking of the, we're talking about box cars. We just got the first B50, 15, and 16 SP cars. The first decorated samples from the factory just arrived. I think it was last week.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this a bit later. But we'll have that at our meet and greet at the San Diego Model Railroad Museum next Wednesday.
It's a week from today, the 22nd.
Week today, yeah. That's coming up fast.
Zoom in on that. That's cool.
Yeah, there's Bill's the expert on these, so I if he was here, I'd let him do all the talking. But we've got two different bodies. There's the wood body, and then there's the steel rebuilt body, I believe. I'm not an expert, so don't quote me on
the steel body that you're looking
at. Yeah. I know there's like 2 different roof types and 2 different ends and 2 different brake systems.
We're getting a reputation, like we kind of do this at Rapido. First it was all V and CN, then it was CP, then it was New Haven. Now it's SP. We're just getting sort of known as like Rapido's the SP guys. Rapido's the New Haven guys. And it's nice. We're building a relationship with the GN historical, the GNR HS. You know, we're getting and we want to do some more GN stuff. There's a wood sided car.
This is the maintenance of way car.
Yeah, the factory sent weird. They didn't
well, that's because that's where they were in production. So they sent the overnight cars. This is the MOW car, and there's another one. I can't remember which one it is here.
You just showed us. Oh, that one. Oh, okay. That photo looks very. Look at the trucks. You got to fix the colors on that photo.
Yeah, these have not been edited at all. I think Bill touched.
The trucks are looking greenish. You know that there's too much of it, or bluish.
Yep.
You know, there's too much of a blue tint on the photo.
Yeah, but they did send us the shells for the kind of the standard cars, but they're totally unassembled.
Have you sent those on to Craig yet?
I believe that shipment went out today.
Good. Okay.
I don't know if it was one of the guys did it.
Jordan, you're not doing everything yourself. we still get messages from people, especially ones who've been following Rapido since the beginning 18 years ago, who think it's like it's a one-man show, or it's me and Jordan and Jeremy. It's the three of us, and that's it. So we'll get an email, dear Jason, thank you for sending me such and such a car that I ordered direct, and can I recommend blah 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 blah. It's like we get 300 emails, and we have over 30 people. It's not just me anymore. I'm not doing the designs from my parents' spare bedroom, which is where I started in 2004.
Wow.
What can you do? Actually, I started in England in 2003 in my apartment.
It's been a while.
What other models do you want to talk about? The GP9RM. Let's look at that.
Do you want to talk about the other product announcement, or not announcement, but the NSC barrel ore hopper update just quickly?
Let's go to the GP9RM. It's more exciting.
All right then. Give me a sec.
Oh, you were all queued up for the barrel ores?
I was. It's fine. Give me a second.
So in short, the N scale barrel ore cars, we've in order to up the numbers, we've now offered the US versions in black to go alongside the Canadian National and Ontario Northland.
Share that one really quick.
So the order deadline is now June 15th. There's one of the black cars.
Yep. There's 3 different versions. There's 3 different series of reporting marks. These were all sold into secondhand service. I believe it was Silica Service out of the Pacific Northwest. I think it was Washington State. They were in service until about 2018 or 19, and I think they finally cut them up just a couple of years ago. But they got a good 20 plus years out of those after they were finished in ore service. So,
what's the product code on these?
543.
543. Let's see how they're doing. 4-3.
So we've kind of relaunched the project. We've got a new order deadline. I believe that's also June.
We've sold 1 6-pack in the black so far. one 6-pack since we announced it last week. I hope the orders pick up from there.
Are the black the US one's going to be done in HO as well?
Probably when it's time to rerun the CNs and ONRs, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do them. It'll probably be a few years off. I don't know when the next run's going to be.
You have to wait till everyone's sold out of the other ones, because it's not like we can do more Canadian paint schemes at the same time. And I suspect the black ones won't be enough for our minimum order quantities.
But we'll definitely do more road numbers of the Canadian ones, CN and Ontario Northland.
So N scale fans, please order more of those barrel ore cars. We've had 1 6-pack ordered since our announcement.
So you want to talk Jeeps, eh?
Yeah. Do you have any?
We just announced the order deadline on these, April 17th.
Exactly.
They're
So
beautiful.
we are expecting it's going to be tight. We're supposed to have a sample in about a week and a half that's got the lighting boards in it, and then Mohan's got to program the lighting boards so that we can do a video showing all the features. Because the cool thing is, all like the mother units have 4 different strobe lights on them, so we want to show that off before the order deadline. So we're hoping that we'll be able to do that. But this has been a hugely popular model.
Yeah.
like amazingly popular model.
These are the very early sample. These are the second samples that we've got up on here. I think there's still a couple things that need to be tweaked, but
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
When a model like this, which is absolutely beautiful, by the way, when a model like this is popular, is there ever any thought of extending the order deadline?
So a popular model, you only have to extend the order deadline when it's not doing well. If it's doing well, you want to make them as soon as you can. It's got its own momentum. So we'll extend the order deadline in two situations. A, which is the more common, the model's not ready for production. That is the most common reason for extending order deadline. And B, the sales stink. In that case, we'll extend the deadline and we'll push it some more. So we have, Jordan, can you go to our Canadian flat car page, please? You can stop sharing. Go to it. So the Canadian flat car is an example where we didn't do much to market it. We just basically announced it and then announced an order deadline when we had samples. And our friend Jacob, who helps us with a lot of Canadian projects in terms of photos and stuff, he reached out and said, you didn't really tell us anything about these cars. You didn't market them. You didn't say where they're in service. No, people don't know that these were like basically the most common Canadian flat cars for a 20-year period. And you need to do that in order for people to be excited to order it. So the tooling's done. Can you scroll down and see the samples down there? There's some nice photos of it in service. So the tooling, it's a gorgeous model. Tooling's done, but the orders are very, very light for these. So there's two reasons for that. Reason one, we didn't market it properly. So we're holding it. And reason two, and this is reality. If you look closely, do those photos blow up if you click on it, Jordan, or no?
They do not, but
okay.
If you want to talk for a sec, I can dig them up. So,
no, it's fine. So go back. That's fine. You keep that open. So if you look at the detail on that flat car with etched metal decks and all the ribbing and these actually cost us more than a box car. But
are you still looking at the website, by the way?
Yeah, it's great. So in the minds of the average shopper, though, it's a flat car should be half the price.
Right.
So people are saying, I don't want to pay $60 Canadian for is that what they are? $60 bucks? I think they are. I'm not paying $60 for a flat car. I should have a trailer for that price. These cost us more than box cars. So unless you want a solid one-piece 1970s or 80s kit for your flat car, it's going to come with the higher price tag. And I think a lot of people have said, I can't spend that much on a flat car. And it's funny, when you're building a train, the flat car takes up just as much room as a box car.
Right. It's an odd perception thing, though, Jason. I know exactly what you're saying, that I'll get that. They want what? I'll hear that at times on trailers. Well, think about this trailer. It's still going to be in a two-piece plastic cradle. It's still going to be in a box. It has to be painted. It has as much detail work being done to it as a locomotive. But in your mind, you're thinking, oh, it's a piggyback. It should be $10. It's no, it's basically the same as a freight car.
Exactly. So the trailer, because it costs us almost as much as a freight car, our margins are actually smaller on those because we can't charge $40 for it, which is what we should be charging for it. Right. So we don't make a lot of money on those trailers. But if you look, look at the detail in this flat car. It's a gorgeous car. And we've got to do a better job of selling it. And I think that's going to be maybe the subject of an essay of mine at some point, is that flat cars cost a lot to make. They just do. We can't. It's that's flat, half the price. It's just, I wish.
Well, that being said, we're working on some new. I think the factory's working on some painted samples.
Yeah, so we have commissioned the factory to make up 10 or 20 painted samples of these, and
both
then
the CN and the CP cars.
We'll show them in a train with trailers on them. I hope that will be a way of selling it and say, look how cool this looks. We'll have it running on my layout here or something like that, and going into the super elevated curve with all the trailers going. That should be nice. And if we show you that it looks great, then hopefully people will order it.
And it needs more. I put a couple of prototype pictures up about a month ago on one of the Facebook pages and was surprised at the posts of, this is really neat. I hope they also do this car. And again, I was surprised at, again, the people didn't know, like, Rapido's doing that. I didn't know they were doing that car. So right. Yeah, it does need to circle back around, I think.
We found, like, Facebook's weird. The algorithms work strangely. There's certain posts that Facebook decides to share with everybody, and there's certain posts that it shares with nobody. And Jordan would put the flat car photos up, and it would get like 2 comments. And then he put some other random thing up, and it's like 50 comments, 100 comments.
Well, and interestingly enough, the stuff that's had the most attention of pretty much anything we've announced in the last several months is the Metra stuff. The Metra gallery cars, the F40 PHMs, we've got a large amount of reactions on those. And speaking of which, I think they're all going into tooling soon.
Yeah, so the gallery cars are fully designed. They are waiting for the E8 and the F40 to be designed to be finished so that we can put them all in tooling together, so that we'll ship them at roughly the same time. We don't want the gallery cars to be delivered a year before the E8s and the F40s, so people will be pissed off that there's nothing to pull their cars with. So that's a situation where I told Matt's the project manager gallery cars, I said, just hold off. They're designed, they're approved, the tooling price is fine. Let's just wait until the E8 and the F40 are ready to go. That way they'll come roughly around the same time. They'll probably be a month or 2 apart, but it won't be a year apart. Right, or 6 months apart. So that's the goal there. Yeah, we tend to tell the public more than most manufacturers tell their employees.
Speaking of which, let me just because we were talking about it, I know we've shared this a couple times already, but there's the render for the PHM.
Yeah, so that design is not 100% done yet. Looks good, but it's still got some tweaking to do.
Yeah, there's still some work to do, and I think. If you look at our Facebook page, we've also got photos of the gallery cars, or renders of the gallery cars that we have up there to look at.
Talk to Gomez about getting them on our website.
Are they not up there? I'll have to double check on that.
More questions from Lionel and Tony.
The 44 tonner.
Yeah,
all these
talk about that for another hour.
All of these different phases, which I didn't realize, and it got me going down that rabbit hole. And I'm working with Craig Rutherford that has the Diesel Shop websites, and we're going to do a series in Diesel Era covering the whole. He has the whole the phases lined out, all the different, who bought what phase it was, the roster information. That I'm working on that for later this year in Diesel Era, because again, I was surprised at. I would have thought a 44 tonner was, I knew they probably got a lot of modification, but the whole phase stuff, when you announced all that, was just pow. Like, I didn't know that.
Tony, I love the way you say diesel.
What?
He says you pronounce the S so perfectly. You say diesel. Whereas we say diesel in Canada. I think it's an accent thing, right?
Which one do you think is correct? And we can get into decals and decals later too.
Decals is definitely correct. The decals is because Canadians were influenced by the French Canadian side of us, but I think diesel is either way. But I just think it's cool that we say it differently.
I think the copies of Diesel Era that are sent to Canada by White River, it is pronounced differently. So if you look closely at the S, I think I do render a different one for the printer to send to north of the border.
Fantastic. Jordan, did we have any customer questions? We've been just schmoozing here.
Let me ask. I know.
An hour and 20 minutes, and now no one's paying attention anymore.
Jeremy's watching in the background, so if you're listening, you can start sending me that list of questions.
He hadn't sent you any questions yet?
No, he's been compiling it. So
I can't believe this is like doing a podcast. I can't believe we've chewed up an hour and 20 minutes already. Wow. Pretty interesting stuff.
Okay, here we go. All right. Got a question about prime movers. Remember prime movers?
Oh, please. I'm trying to forget it.
Has the reaction years ago from the prime movers -8 scared you away from ever going back to attempting a product line with less detail than your current standards?
So it's not a question of reaction. It's a question of the prime movers model was a wash. So we sold more because it was a lower price point. But because it was a lower price point, we didn't make as much money on each model. So I would have rather sold fewer of the fully detailed models rather than more of the lesser detailed models. So we've learned our lesson and we're never doing it again.
Well, and what that what's at the dash 840 CM, is that it's coming back now, isn't it? As it will not be a prime mover next time.
It's a fully detailed Rapido release, yeah. And so I mean there were a lot of people very happy with the dash 8s, but it's the lack of detail drives me a bit crazy. So it's been totally redesigned. It's a really nice model now.
That's kind of like the point I was making before. It's kind of the ebb and flow of going from a one-man operation to a 30+ employee operation. You tried the prime mover and it was a wash. You'd rather sell more detail, you'd rather sell fewer detailed models than that. I mean, it must be this constant ebb and flow, because for people in the hobby, I feel very privileged to have this much access to Rapido but I mean, for people in the hobby, it's kind of like, gosh, I've got a lot of questions for those guys. Gosh, I'd really like to, to have this. This is why this is great. But this over the years, this ebb and flow of learning what the hobby is and the manufacturing, and I mean, you must have just an enormous amount of knowledge about the hobby now than you did 20 years ago.
Well, certainly we have that, but we're still falling down occasionally. Like during COVID, there was no inventory for anybody. So that everything we had on the shelves just disappeared immediately. Stores were desperate to put something on the shelves. So all the inventory,
waiting 4 months for them to arrive.
Yeah, so everything just sold out. And so we decided to make a little bit more. We normally don't make a lot of inventory. We thought we'd make a little bit more inventory on the stuff we were starting to produce a year and a half ago during the pandemic. Well, everyone else thought the same thing. So now as a hobby, there's just too much inventory out there. We've got too much stock in the back. Every other manufacturer has too much stock in the back, right? Because we responded to the way the market was then, but now the market is now. There are more model railroaders now than there were 3 years ago. I can tell you that right now. There are many, many more. The pandemic was the best thing to happen to our hobby in a generation, 2 generations, because people realized, wow, I need something to do. Right. And so we've gained numbers. Look at the numbers at the Springfield show. It was the biggest show they've ever had. I don't know the exact numbers, 24, 25,000, whatever it was. It was the biggest they've ever had. So that people are buying, but the manufacturers, we all made a little too much inventory. So it's not one particular thing. It's just spread over the whole line. And I've got at Springfield talking with stores. The store says to me, I normally get 1 pallet in a month of product, and I got 12 pallets in 2 months, right? Like it's just so much stuff. So that's a challenge where I wish that I had a crystal ball 2 years ago. And I said, wow, everyone wants everything right now, but in 2023, we're gonna have too much stock. So let's cut our inventory down to 0. So now we're cutting our inventory down. So is everybody else. So what's gonna happen is about a year from now, there'll be no stock of anything. But we're all gun shy now. We don't want to make stock because we want to be stuck with it, right? So yeah, that's my crystal ball right now is telling me that a year from now, year and a half from now, there's going to be low stock of everything.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of a guy named Dave Abeleys?
Yeah, of course. He's been texting me during this call.
He's dying for you to make the C30-7A. Could you please? I'm begging you. I'm on my knees begging you. Could you just make one for Dave so that he leaves me alone?
He should join the GP40 TC club. There's a whole bunch of people who send us weekly emails asking for a GP40 TC. But to my mind, you can't have a GP40 TC without a whole bunch of single-decker go-cars behind it. But that's another story.
Go's 60th anniversary is coming up in like 4 years.
4 years. Yes, 4 years. We haven't been planning our 2027 models yet.
No.
We'll see. We'll see where that takes us. But yeah, so Dave should know I would like to do the C30-7A just to shut him up. So but let's get the C30-7 out into people's hands first, and then we can talk about C30-7A. What if Dave gets the C30-7 and says, "No, I'm going to go to AHM. I don't like this stuff anymore." Right? Yeah, that one's a waste, right?
Anyways, question for Tony. When is the new Amtrak book coming out?
Which Amtrak book? I think the new Amtrak by the Numbers is being finished up.
I need to copy that, by the way.
Kevin Udaly has been working on that, but no, it's not gone to the printer yet. Our latest book is the 2-volume Northern Pacific Motive Power books, which are dynamite. Those are really, really nice. And then that Kansas City Southern book is out. But Amtrak by the Numbers, I don't think has an official. This would be the second run of it, the updated and revised, all new pictures, I've been told. So if you have the first one going, well, I don't want it just for the updates on the data or the facts, the pictures are all being changed out as well, is one of the reasons why it's delayed. So
you need to have a really, really, really big slumber coach section.
Did you see the 44-tonner picture I found for you of that Rio Grande unit?
Yes, pulling
a Burlington slumber coach. When I found that, I'm like, oh my gosh, Jason's gonna say this is perfect.
That's on our website now. That's we use.
I did see that. Yeah, I saw it. It's awesome. I think that was there. Was it the 1 and 2? The Royal Gorge carried some Burlington train to Colorado Springs, like a sleeper section out at maybe the Denver Zephyr or something. I don't know, but I think that's what those cars are.
I think the car was it was one of the NP painted cars, but they had a few, and I think we're making them too. Actually, that specific car we're actually making. I checked the road number, and
it was NP. What did it have? The Burlington on the
because the Burlington cars had the skirting, right, for the regular Burlington ones, but the ones that were kind of they shared some NP slumber coaches.
Got it. Okay. So that's
but that's the one that's on the website, I think.
Yeah, beauty. More questions?
Question about older products. Will any older products, kind of like the SW1200 RS, be making a return, or stuff that's been made before about 2018?
Yes. The 1200 RS is a particular difficult one because we redesigned it for the 1200s, how it went together. We've since moved the project to another factory, and I think it needs the 1200S needs a lot of redesign work to get it to be able to be disassembled without a degree in model train disassembly. Let's put it that way. That was a challenge. That factory that we did the 1200S and the RS18s and 11s, and like they were impossible to disassemble. So
and that's kind of on that note has been why it's been a bit of a longer wait for the 11s and 18s, because that was.
Well, we had to totally redesign the.
That's totally new from the ground up.
It was so funny when we were so frustrated by how difficult it was to disassemble, because it's not just for the customer. We get a model back and we have to fix for warranty purposes, and we can't disassemble the damn thing. Right? We had a supply of paints, of extra handrails, of extra stanchions, all this stuff. It was glued together. And so we were in China, and we bring this model to the factory, and we said, this is how models go together. Like, whoa. And then all the engineers are around, and then we just took off the 2 screws and lifted the shell off. Whoa, okay, this is too good. Who made this? I said, our other factory. It was the P36. And at that point, there was like a light went off and said, oh, we have to be the better factory than the other factory. So it's suddenly, okay, we're going to redesign it. And that happened. Right. But it was like so frustrating. We couldn't.
And that's a huge challenge with the ready to run the way the stuff is today. Everything is assembled and you don't think about it. But then there's also, for almost everything, the sound ready, or the DC version. And I run into that with emails and other things of there's nothing in there to tell you how to get the shell off, or it says this, but I found it's like, yeah, there's 2 more screws. Then it's not just the couplers, and that can be really frustrating on those things. And with the review process, I go through that where I've got to take the stuff apart. So I always shoot all the exterior pictures first before I try to disassemble it, look at them, make sure they're good, they're laid out. Now take the thing apart. That way, if I, ham-handedly start knocking things off of it, it's like, well, at least I have pictures of it before I destroyed it. But yeah, as you say, the wonder is when you can pull the couplers out and take the shell right off is like, this is how a model should be. Yeah.
That's how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. But sometimes it's just impossible with the design of the model. It's so hard to do it that way because you've got parts on the model connected to the underbody. Like we've got a brake chain on our Bud cars that we can't let it dangle. It's going to get caught in stuff. It's got to be connected underneath. So you've got to actually remove it from the underbody to get the underbody out, to put your people in the car. Right. There's no alternative. Otherwise it's just going to dangle loose and foul stuff.
I mean, that has to be now part of the product development portion of anything is how easy is it to get back apart? What isn't going to break off of it if you want to change couplers or put a decoder into it? That, again, we want this level of quality, but I also want to be able to pop it open if I need to do something. And it's like, well, okay, those two don't really play together well.
It's a challenge sometimes, but that sometimes we get it right. Sometimes, not so much. All right, what can you do?
So how do you choose which factory? How do you choose which factory for which product?
Well, one way we choose is we say if they've designed something very similar and it was very successful, we'll have them do the next version. If they designed something and it was not so successful, we'll say let another factory have a shot at it. Another time is we look at how busy they are. One of our factories has 1.5 engineers, basically. So the factory boss is an engineer, and we've got a full-time engineer. Another factory has 2 engineers. Another factory has 3 engineers. So we look at their workload, and we will ask them. We'll say, "Do you have the time to design this?" No. So then we go to the other factory and say, "We need you to design this." And a lot of the stuff ends up, there's the one factory that if you go through Rapido's YouTube videos, you'll see we started the factory in 2013. And that's where we have the shipping day of the Rapido factory. It's the RDCs that we're shipping out from 2016. That factory is run by Huang, who's I've known since 2005. And a lot of the stuff just goes to him. Because at his factory, he's mostly just making our stuff. Colin's factory, we helped grow the factory, but now he's making a lot of stuff. So we generally use him just for locomotives because he's so busy that I don't want to give him a freight car and say we need this freight car right now, because then he's got a locomotive from another manufacturer that's waiting while he's making our freight car. So it doesn't make sense for him financially to do that. So he's doing just locomotives. And then we got another factory he does everything. We started that factory during the pandemic. And he makes everything. So he makes freight cars, passenger cars, locomotives. But he's a much smaller factory. He's the one who's got 1.5 engineers. He doesn't have the capacity to do. I couldn't give him, if I said to him, make the RS11, RS18, RS C14, M420, and D10 all at the same time. Like give me 2 years. I can do that in 2 years, right? Whereas Colin can make all 5 of those at the same time. So we're actually shipping all of those in 2023 coming out of his factory. Please God.
Speaking of the D10, they are leaving the factory in April?
Yeah, should be by the end. So he's got the M420s, the D10s both leaving sometime between now and May. I'm just not sure when.
That's the CN versions of the M420. Yep.
So I'm not sure what's going to be. I've got production photos here somewhere.
The D10 is going to be very cool.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's have a look. It's in the D10 folder.
Looking for the production shots?
Yeah, I've got it here somewhere. Here we go. Factory photos. This is from a month ago.
So you said the one factory has 1.5 engineers. Is it the top half or the bottom half?
It's bottom half. Always that's where the action is. Anyway, there we go. So that's D10 chassis in the paint shop. There they are.
This was a while ago, right? This is
This is February. This is like just when they reopened, like the week they reopened from Chinese New Year. Boilers. I don't know what that is. Oh, that's part of the what do you call it? The
like side rods.
Side rod. Thank you. I'm not a steam guy. So that's the painting mask. So you can get the gunmetal effect there. On the fire, it's the firebox, right? I don't know steam engines. So there you go. So this is a month ago. So they've really progressed since then. This is drilling holes. Looks like they've got a mini drill press there. They must be drilling holes in these chassis or something, or in these parts. I don't know what they're drilling. And that's all parts that looks like they've been prepped. Tenders with the maroon and black. That's before you get the tampo, the printing for the striping and lettering. There you go. So there's our, that was a month ago. Let me email him right now and say, Colin, can we please have some more D10 production photos? So hopefully we'll have them on our Facebook.
You can't email them now. We're live. We're live.
You can't see my screen, can you?
You did that once, or you did that once a few years ago, and it was like your Excel spreadsheets of something.
I remember that.
Yeah. Oops. Once you're done there, question if you've had many or much feedback on your RMC article recently.
Actually, yeah. So I've just sent the email. We'll see if it comes back. If I thought of this like at the beginning of this talk, I probably would have had photos by now that we could have shown everybody. Yeah, I did the March RMC. I had a piece about rage in our hobby. There seems to be a lot of online rage, and I actually I sort of addressed the ragers directly in the editorial. But we've had a lot of positive feedback. We haven't had angry negative feedback. There we go. Cue the rage. But we've had very positive feedback from people. So I think that people recognize that there's a lot of negativity out there, and I don't think it's not just in our hobby. I think it's everywhere. I got a story for you. Did I include the story in the piece about when Chris was trying to drive the GO train? I don't think I did.
I know you talk about rail fanning and having somebody.
Yeah, someone called
the police. I remember I told that to someone else that was having a bad day. They're like, "What?" I said, "Yeah." And in fact, I sent them a copy of this, and they're like, "Wow." And I said, "Yeah, isn't that amazing?" Oh, and by the way, I think this wooden locomotive you're showing doesn't have enough portholes to be an FT. Whatever you're trying to do here. So, and it's got no stirrup steps, and the number boards are not correct it should have 2 headlights.
Yeah, I know. I'm terrible.
See, and that's, and this is again, and I think that's part of our detail. We're detail oriented. We love this stuff. But then the flip side of, I can talk to you about all the different locomotives, this or that. We have that kind of a negative or downside of picking that stuff apart. And, as you say, you've got to step back from that a little bit and try to remember why you're doing this, because you love trains. And it's like, yeah,
And I think the majority of model railroaders, a large majority, there are people like me that are like, hey, that's a cool model. It looks really cool. And they don't care about if it's exactly right. It's so cool. It's fun to have it. And the people that are picking these things apart are such a small minority that it's ruining the party for everybody else.
Yeah. We always try our best to get it right. That's as simple as that. We try our best to get it right. We sometimes are more successful than other times, but there's no big conspiracy. It's not a big conspiracy. We're not out to cut corners just to upset that one guy in his corner of the internet. if there's something that we got wrong, it's chances are it was a mistake. Who knows what the cause was, right? We had a situation now where we got a bunch of models. We got the production samples. We just said the gray's wrong, and we went to the factory in Moa and had a really nice conversation with the factory boss and said, I got to tell you, like, we can't accept this. There's an element of shift we can accept, and that we can't accept. In fact, it happened also with the CNR yellow on the FPA2Us. CNR yellow was not good enough. Now we have, if you take all of our CNR yellow from the 50s models, the yellow shifts, it moves around a little bit. I mean, that's to be expected. But this one had shifted too much, and I said, you have to remake this. Unfortunately, it was the same factory, had to remake both of those products. But he said, look, you're right, and I've got a problem where my QC inspectors doesn't have the eye for it, and I'm going to have to get involved personally and make sure that happens. But there are times when it arrives here and it's too late. The production's already happened. The goods are on their way, and there's we got all the production samples but one, and then all the goods leave, and then we get that last production sample and we discover that there's a slight printing or color error. It's too late. They're on a boat. Right. And sometimes if it's a really major problem, like if, the Canadian National have a big space instead of a small space, it's really obvious, we will hold the shipment and we'll remake it. But oftentimes we don't have the budget on that project to do that. We can't hold it for a small issue. It's just not possible. And other times we don't catch it. It's so minor that we don't know it at all until they start screaming on the internet. And the perfect example is the B100 SP boxcars. We discovered that there were two tiny waffles. Like, we're talking, like, how big were they, Jordan? Like a 16th of an inch by something like that. There's two waffles that the EDM machine didn't catch, and they were missing from the side. So we told the factory, thank God, right before production, add these two bumps. These two bumps are missing. You got to add these two bumps. They added them. They left them in the EDM machine probably for about, 20 seconds longer than all the other bumps. So they stuck out like 0.1 or 0.2 millimeters more than the other bumps, okay? We didn't see it. Our experts didn't see it. Nobody saw it. Even if we did saw it, it's 0.1 millimeters on two little bumps. And the firestorm on the internet, like from people, why does Rapido always screw up? Two bumps, okay? 0.1 or 0.2 millimeters. And they're screaming. And all I can say is, this car is 99.98% good. And you're focusing on the 0.02%. There's two bumps, okay? But that's what they were doing. And there's like pages of discussions. I can't believe they screwed this up. They're always screwing up. And like the guys who helped us on the car got it, said this is an amazing model. Thank you. But someone took the photo, probably didn't even own it. They took a photo of it from the internet and they blew it up to fill their 27-inch monitor and said, those two bumps are too high. Right? And it's an HO scale model. It's 2 inches tall. It wasn't designed to be looked at on a 27-inch monitor. That's all I can say. And we cannot make a model that will always stand the 27-inch monitor test. And if we aim for that, we'll be out of business because we won't be able to ship anything. We'll reject everything if we're trying to pass the 27-inch monitor test and everything. Just all I can say. Right.
I really think it's such a small percentage of the hobby that it's like that. The problem is it's extremely demoralizing for you guys when people are like that. But in reality, I really believe it's a very small percentage. And they're like I've heard before, they're probably not even buying the product anyways. They're just looking for something to complain about.
Right.
And that's not to say that feedback isn't important. It is appreciated when we get feedback, like if it's a model that hasn't been made yet or hasn't been shipped, or if it's early in development, it's good to get feedback on stuff if we need to fix something.
Well, yeah, and that's the point. That's the point you guys could really stress is you guys are excited to have people involved pre-production. You're excited to have people send in their photos or make their comments or whatever. You're excited to have the buyers involved in pre-production. But at some point, the car has to. I mean, I'll relay this story. I bought my wife a brand new Lexus, drove it 110 miles, and the thing quit on me. And I mean, we went through a process. Eventually they replaced the car, and the one I got now has gone tens of thousands of miles without any problem. But they were constantly concerned that I was going to complain, and I kept saying, it's a one-off. This is not the way your company manufactures cars. It's a one-off. And it's the same thing with Rapido or any manufacturer, but particularly Rapido. I mean, what you're making is exquisite. It's like pieces of jewelry. And sure, if you're going to examine it with a fine-tooth comb and a magnifying glass, yeah, you're probably going to find something on a 1/87th scale model that's not 100% correct. But at the end of the day, I truly believe that a large majority of the hobbyists and the purchasers of Rapido equipment are extremely pleased with what they're getting.
Thank you, Lionel. I hope that that's the case. But there was another situation where we'd shown drawings of the U25, and we always say, like, if you can help us, reach out, et cetera, let us know if you're an expert. We say that quite often. And then we got our first test shots, and somebody posts online, "Oh, they got it wrong. Here's the copy of the blueprint I have. Look how wrong it is." And you got to think that whoever that was, I'm not on the forums myself, whoever that was more interested in saying, "Gotcha, I know more than you do," than they were in producing a better model. Because if they'd contacted us when we launched it and said, "I got blueprints of this, can I help?" we would have said, "Absolutely, and we'll give you free models as a thank you." Right? But this person wasn't interested in that. It was a gotcha. Right? I know more than you do, and I'm proving that you got it wrong. I don't understand that thinking. I just don't get it. I think we all want a better product.
Right.
I don't get it. Okay, if you work for Athearn and we're bringing out a competing model, you don't call and say, "I got blueprints, can I help you out?" Right, I get that. But if you're just a modeler, a fan, whatever, and we're doing a model and you haven't sent your blueprints to another manufacturer, they're just sitting in your collection, reach out to us and say, "I've got blueprints of this." That's why I'm asking, Toronto Subways, you got blueprints? All right, let us know. We'll give you free models.
Well, people also need to recognize the fact that you are a true blue model railroader. I mean, the work you're doing now on your model railroad is excellent, and you guys, all you guys, are true blue model railroaders, and people need to recognize that fact. Yeah, I mean, I've been blown away by the work you've been doing. Especially, I remember that on the Kingston sub, not far off the tracks, there's a square laying beside the tracks. But people need to recognize the fact that you're doing a beautiful job on your layout, and that's a fun thing to do too. And that's a fun. I think it's very, very hard on you guys. I mean, I think the first time we ever talked about it was, I think, 2018 or something. I did an interview with you in your office, and you were just completely demoralized to the point where you'd said you were telling your guys not to look at forums, and it's almost like you kind of almost want to continue on with that, because it's such a small number of people that are just literally looking to, it's what their life is, this gotcha mentality of look what you've made a mistake, and it's what you say, it's a gotcha mentality now, and I really don't believe it truly represents Bill Rapido. I mean, I can give people a perfectly good example of what the folks at Rapido are like. You guys started advertising with me in December of 2022. I'm completely new at it, having an advertiser, but at no point have you guys stuck your finger in and said, "We want you to do this or want you to do that." You you're very much about embracing a hobby and just having fun. And I think people need to realize that. I mean, I've had so much fun having you guys as the advertiser, because it's just kind of like a fun family to belong to, you know?
I recorded a jingle. I just have to edit it, but we recorded the jingle for you. So
perfect.
Yeah. I'll have
Perfect.
that. It's on my to-do list.
So Tony, do you ever hear from readers about mistakes and stuff like that, or do they bombard you with comments and things?
You hear both. I hear a lot of, oh, this was a fantastic model, and you do hear some of the, hey, did they know about this, or is this going to be corrected? And most of the time, they're already aware of it. And Rapido's one of many that I've forwarded an email and either said, here's a suggestion somebody has for like a future road name, or they've got this model and someone else told them it's got this or that issue. And 9 times out of 10, the companies already know or are dealing with or saying, that's being corrected. But, again, I have been fortunate in model railroad news that I don't get a lot of that kind of gotcha or you were wrong, which is good, to not. But yeah, it can be very frustrating, I'm sure, to have some of that of, hey, you got this wrong, or because I'm in the same boat as I'm going through the prototype information or calling things out. I mean, think about it, to fill 100 pages every month, in addition to the 2 quarterlies that I also do, even with the help from outside reviewers, I can't be an expert and know about every railroad, every kind of freight car, every kind of locomotive. So yes, there are times where I'm having to rely on enough information on something to get it through and get it into print. And I know there's people out there that this is what they live for, is whatever this prototype is. And I'm probably not doing it enough justice. But, there's kind of this 90-10 rule, I remember being told on a lot of things, that what it takes you to get to 90% correct, like putting the magazine together, making sure that we don't have errors and other things in it, to get to that last 10% is just as much effort as it took to get to the 90. So that last 10% is wasted. It's not going to benefit you really.
Right.
And I don't think people realize the amount of work. I always tell the story. I built 2 project railroads for Model Railroader, and it was like, it seemed like a really simple idea, but trying to get a model railroad complete is a huge job, because you get to that 90% and you're thinking, okay, I'll just do this or I'll just do that. And to build model after model after model to the level that you guys do, it's to me, it seems enormous. Now, one thing we need to make sure all the viewers know, I was fortunate enough to be at Springfield, and I thought to myself, I want to interview some of the guys at Rapido. I want to do that because I have this portable recorder. I go around interviewing people. And I thought, wait till like 4:00 or 3:30 on the Sunday afternoon. And when I go over to the Rapido booth, there won't be anybody there because the show's winding down. And I get over there, I can't get anywhere near it, for crying out loud. There was a huge crowd around your booth, even at 4:00 on Sunday afternoon. I mean, that just shows you what. And everybody kept saying to me, well, it's because they have so many models. And I said, no, it's not. It's because the quality is so good. I mean, I was shocked when I got over there. I walked past NCE. I said hi to Jim Scores. I talked to a couple other people on my way over, and I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to get up there. There won't be anybody. It was crowded. It was crowded at the booth with an hour left to go at the show.
I don't think I had 2 minutes to talk to you. I kept seeing you in the booth, and I was always, it was that busy, which was great. So.
That was a good show. We had a good time. All right, I think we should. It's now almost 2 hours. It's time to wind down. We answered like 3 questions.
Yeah, I got to hit the road. I got a long walk.
Well, thank you very much, Tony and Lionel, for participating today. This has been great.
Thanks for asking. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Excellent.
And, I think we will try and go back to a somewhat of a regular monthly schedule for our live streams. It's been a while, but we're getting back to it again. So
yeah, you don't want me on them because I talk too much. You need to get the other project guys on there.
Well, we limited you to 2 minutes about talking about the 80s and stuff like that. So
I don't even think I don't think he even got 2 minutes in.
Oh,
Yeah, I wanted to talk more about the Breakfast Club. I want to go to Shermer, Illinois.
Could we at least do 5 minutes about the Rockford Files?
Only if we can do 5 minutes about Columbo.
Oh,
actually, I bought season 1 of Knight Rider, and it's great. It's great because I'm almost finished Cheers, almost finished Night Court. I finished Family Ties. I finished Facts Life. Finished Golden. I'm watching Facts Life for a second time, but yeah, it's I'm enjoying it.
Well, Rockford Files that's Dan Darnell's ringtone. So,
oh really?
Office and all this. I'll just play it on my phone, and he'll be panicking looking for his phone. Great.
That's awesome.
All right, thanks, guys. You want to stop the recording now, Jordan?
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next time, everyone. Okay. Bye now.